what a great panel to follow on scaling, and also congratulations with all the fantastic work you're doing in Republic of Work and NDRC as well. So let me see. Okay, great. So it's fantastic to be here with you at Dublin Tech Summit. My name is Barry Downs, and I guess my talk here today is about being a founder and then going from founder to becoming an investor, and some of the lessons that I've learned along the way about building software companies. And I guess also in the context of scaling and the conference being about scaling businesses, I've tried to frame those lessons in the context of scaling companies. So this slide basically says I'm a regulated fund manager and I'm not providing financial advice. This slide gives you a bit of background on me. So I'm going to talk primarily about three companies. FeedHenry, which is a mobile cloud software company. Pluto Digital, which is blockchain and crypto. And as DC mentioned there, Sure Valley Ventures, which is a venture capital fund. So just to step back a little bit and talk about my own background, loved technology all my life, did an undergrad degree in computer science. First job was for a small company in the Boston area of Massachusetts, which became a large company called Infinium. And when I came back to Ireland, one of the things I did was to run an academic research centre, which is kind of PhD level research and researchers looking out into the future as to where technology is going, and then coming back to today to build out those technologies, often with some of the largest companies in the world. And actually that's where the journey with FeedHenry starts, because FeedHenry was... Hello? Oh. FeedHenry was a spin-out of that research institute, which is now called Walton. And it was basically a mobile enablement platform based in the cloud. And that company spun out in 2010. Ultimately, I got a number of rounds of funding. VCs involved in it included Intel Capital and Kernel Capital in Cork. And ultimately, the company was sold to Red Hat in 2014. And Red Hat now are part of IBM. So I was a co-founder in that business. I was also co-founder in Pluto Digital, which was a blockchain technology company which built blockchain and crypto technology, in particular for DeFi, or decentralized finance, and also for gaming as well. And that company actually was only acquired last year in a reverse takeover by Emergent Games, and they're a leader in blockchain and blockchain gaming and metaverse gaming as well. And then more recently with Sure Valley, I founded that with a long-time colleague, Brian Canaan, back in 2017. We invest in Irish and UK software companies. And since 2017, our companies have had great success. We've had some sales to some of the largest companies in the world, such as Unity Technologies. But we've also learned a lot of lessons about scaling through the companies we've invested in that have gone IPO. And two IPOs in particular I'd highlight: Engage XR Holdings PLC and also SmartTech 247 PLC, which just IPO'd before Christmas last year. So hopefully that gives me a good background to think about how to build software companies. And we've made some mistakes along the way, and we've learned some lessons, and we've also learned from the companies we've invested in as well. And so I thought what I'd highlight is 6 key scaling lessons. 3 of them, the first 3 are things that we need to do before we scale, and then the second 3 are really about scaling itself. Now, why 6? To be honest with you, I could have picked 7, I could have picked 10, and anybody who's run a company knows actually there's a myriad of different things that are required for success in running a business. But what I tried to pick out amongst the experiences that I've had and we've had in Sure Valley are some of the most relevant things, I think, for you as an audience and for us as investors and investing in companies. So I'll try and go through these fairly quickly. And there's a subtlety to some of these as well. So the first one is product market fit. And the key thing about this is that in a software company in particular, the product should address a really significant customer pain and a large market opportunity. And that really, unless the company does this, it's going to be very hard for the company to scale. And the reason for this is if you actually think about it from the customer point of view. And the subtlety is in really the nature of the pain for a customer. So let's picture a customer that's an enterprise, somebody's doing procurement in a large organization. The easiest thing for them to do is to buy a product from Microsoft. And anybody who's seen Microsoft over the last couple of years has known they're on fire. So you're really competing against current ways of doing business. Large companies like Microsoft or internal IT are often competitors as well. So for a company to adopt a product from a startup, which is kind of risky when you think about it because startups can fail, the pain that the company is solving has to be really significant and really deep. And we had this issue with FeedHenry, actually. We had some hard lessons with FeedHenry that the first problem that we tried to solve, the pain wasn't deep enough. And we engaged with our customers, and actually it was a bit of a struggle. And we engaged with our customers, and there was a very particular customer, and it was a gentleman called Patrick Lenahan, who worked for Independent Digital, which is part of Independent News and Media. And Patrick said to me and the CTO at the time, a guy called Richard Roger, he said, you know what, actually, I really don't value what you're trying to sell me in this particular way. But if you just tweaked your product a little bit and you solved this problem for me, actually it would be really valuable for me. And it was a tough meeting, but we really reflected on that feedback. And on reflection, actually, it led to a major pivot in the company. And that major pivot became the product that we built the company around and ultimately sold to Red Hat. So that kind of customer engagement process is so important in product market fit. Related to that is business model validation. Now, excuse me, creating a scalable business model is crucial for growth. And a scalable business model is one that can generate significant recurring revenue and high margins. And whilst that may kind of sound like kind of business 101 in many ways, there's a subtlety to this as well. We have met many, many companies that are solving a valuable problem for their customer, but they still are not able to generate a lot of revenue from that. In fact, the customer either doesn't value it enough to pay a large amount for it, or the customer, because of industry dynamics, the classical kind of market structures, industry structures, and Porter's 5 forces, the customer captures the majority of the revenue that comes from the product. So think about, and these situations are quite difficult because you're actually winning new customers, but you're not building a sustainable business model. And you only build a sustainable business model if you can generate significant revenues and high margins from those customers. And that requires pivoting as well if required. And we've had examples of that also. Now, having said that, once you get those two things right, then the next job is what we call R cubed, or getting to repeatable, recurring revenue as quickly as possible. And that in particular today is so important. We're in, I think as everybody probably knows, we're in a difficult fundraising environment right now. And we can see from a Shore Valley perspective a really strong view of the marketplace. And what we're seeing are the companies that have product market fit, and have a strong business model and repeatable recurring revenue, particularly for the stage of development that they're at. Those are the companies that are raising money. Companies that are not generating revenue at the moment are struggling to raise capital in the current environment. So it's important to get the sales engine going. And of course, there's a whole array of things to unpack in that in terms of market-led growth, product-led growth, hiring the sales team, getting that humming and getting it up and running. There's so much involved in that. And at the end of the day, that repeatable recurring revenue is what's required to raise capital and also to scale up the business. And then just related to that is point 4, which is raising capital and knowing your VC. There's 2 things I'd say about VCs right now. One, do your research on the VCs that you approach. The first thing is to make sure that they're actively investing right now. And you can actually see that from their website. They'll say on their website they're actively investing. Or you can see it from their news flow. You'll see those VCs actually doing deals, actually doing investments from their news flow. So that's the first thing. The second thing is make sure that those VCs invest in your type of company. Every VC has a different type of strategy. Some are pure enterprise SaaS, some are investing in AI, some do life sciences. It's important to understand that the VCs that you approach are the ones that will actually have a potential of investing in your business. And actually, this is something we did badly in FeedHenry, but we did very well in Pluto. In FeedHenry, we went through over 50, possibly even 60 VCs before we got our lead for the Series A. And a lot of those VCs were never going to invest. And we hadn't approached them properly in the first instance. And it actually sucked up a lot of time from the entire team. There was a team doing the fundraising, and it sucked up a huge amount of time. Had we targeted our VCs and got warm introductions to them, it would have made that process much more efficient. And then we did it well in Pluto Digital because we ended up raising £32 million in a week and a half, end-to-end in Pluto Digital, and probably 2 weeks to get cash into the bank. So it was a super fast, unusually fast round, but it was actually while crypto was, the mitigating factor was crypto was super hot at the time. It would be harder to do that today, but hopefully next year it'll be easier to do it. So once you've raised that capital, and the final thing I would say is when engaging with a VC, it's really helpful to have a validated plan for rapid growth to become a market leader, because all VCs want to believe that when they're investing in a company, that company is going to scale up and become a very, very large company in the industry, like the companies that you would have seen on the last panel. So not every company does end up being that scale up because it's tough and it's hard and there's lots of challenges to do so. And actually, there can be bad luck as well. To be honest with you, a lot of it is down to having some good luck and timing also. But a VC will generally not invest unless they think there's a potential that your company can scale up and become a market leader. And then the final 2 points that I'll make about growth are, once you actually raise that capital and go to scale up, speed is of the essence. To become a market leader, you need to grow quickly and fast. And in fact, if you think about growth at that stage and later stages, post-Series A, Series B, Series C, that's like a rocket ship. And what you're trying to do as a founder and as a founding team, is manage a business whilst the rocket ship is firing. And that's very, very difficult as well. And then manage through multiple transitions. The transition from 10 to 100 people, from 100 to 1,000 people, from 1,000 to 10,000 people, and so on. The business needs to be configured and run and operated in different ways at each of those stages. Product sales are different. Organization of marketing and sales is different. And it can be very, very challenging for the founder and the key team members to recognize when things need to change and make those changes. But yet that needs to occur to actually fully realize the potential of the scale-up. And then the final point I'll make is really about growing the team associated with that as well. And the general rule of thumb and advice we give to companies that we invest in is hire for the skills that you need today. Because I can give you 2 examples of many times a small company will hire a senior executive from one of the largest companies in the world. And what can sometimes happen with that is that it doesn't work out because the senior executive their skills are really specialized and they're specialized for a certain stage of growth of the company. Similarly, I'm sure we've all seen cases where major contributors to a startup in the early days struggle to maintain their contribution as the company goes past 100 people or 1,000 people. So the way we always think about this is every team member is valuable. During high growth, hire for the skills required today, try and hire generalists in the early stages, and then bring on the specialists in later stages where the specialized experience they might have had in some of the largest companies in the world can really propel your growth. Also, of course, build some really important, whilst you're riding that rocket ship, to build a great culture as well, because increasingly people want to work in organizations with a mission and a purpose and a really great culture also. So those are some of the key lessons. To be honest with you, it's very hard to pick them out because there's so many lessons that we've had. And maybe just to wrap up, what I might just say is that we've taken these lessons and many, many more, and we've kind of baked them into our value-added platform in Sure Valley, which is a platform that we use to support the companies we invest in. And so maybe just to wrap up, just to talk a little bit about Sure Valley. So we're a VC team, primarily founders, multiple founders in the team. We've been investing into UK and Irish software companies since 2017. As I mentioned, many of those companies have gone on to IPO. We're primarily AI investors in a number of core areas, so enterprise, immersive and creative tech, security, and also IoT. And we recently, just coming to my earlier point, we recently launched 2 new funds. So we launched a UK fund in partnership with the British Business Bank in the UK, which is focused on investing in 20 UK AI companies over the next 5 years. And then we have more recently launched an Irish fund backed by Enterprise Ireland to invest in 20 Irish software companies, and they're at a seed stage in Ireland. And the other thing is we're open for business, we're actively investing. I'd love it if you could talk to us afterwards, and I'm very happy to take questions at the end of this. I just want to show, just to give you a flavour of how we baked it in. I'm not going to have time to show you in any great detail, but we have a number of models internally as to how we seek to bake in those lessons and deliver value to companies. And this model is kind of like a meta model that shows some of our detailed models put together. So we have a model for originating new investment opportunities and then evaluating them. And the lessons out of that feed into a series of models that allow us to deliver a custom series of supports to companies. So a resource-based view of the firm, a kind of temporal or milestone model, and a programmatic model as well. And if you look deep into those models, you'll see some of the things we've been talking about. So on the milestone model, you can see minimal viable product, market validation. You'll see milestones for repeatable recurring revenue. And in the resource-based view of the model, you'll see focus on things like team, product, market, getting that sales engine going, and also systems that will enable growth in the organization. And I won't bore you with the details of this, but all of these models work together to deliver value for companies. And here's some of the things that we do, and here's some of the value that hopefully we will add. And we kind of break it down into what we do after an investment. So what we do in the first quarter, what we do in the first 12 months, what we do in the first 24 months, and then what we do beyond that. And as part of that, we stack these supports as well. We are supported by a fantastic team of advisors who are from some of the largest companies in the world. Some of them are here today. And these advisors, most of them are actually giving their support back pro bono to help new Irish companies start and to give them the benefit of their advice and their experience. And we have over 50 people in that network. And then that's put together with regular quarterly webinars, annual conference, the director that we put on the board of the company engaging with platform to deliver services to companies, and expansion and capital supports as well. So I've got a couple of seconds left, just to wrap it up in conclusion. We hope that we have learned the lessons from our own experiences as founders and from the companies we've invested in, and that we've built in Sure Valley a learning organization that can learn from every founder we engage with and every company we work with to deliver value into the Irish and to the UK economies. We have a methodology for doing that. Another day we'd love to talk to you about it more. But if you'd like more information on it, there's some links here in terms of our platform. There's my LinkedIn, there's my Twitter, and you can reach out to us. So our email is there, info@surevalley.com, and barry.downs@surevalley.com as well. And here's where we're based. So in Ireland, we're based in Dublin and Waterford, and we hope to open a Cork office before the end of the year. And in the UK, we're based in London, Cambridge, and in Manchester. And I'm kind of on time, and I would love to take any questions you might have.
Yep. Thank you, Barry.
Cheers, VC.
So folks, if anybody in the audience has a question, I'll bring the mic down to them. I thought I might steal from Martina's questions and go best pitch, worst pitch, and you may go personal, or you may go with having been pitched. Anything spring to mind?
Actually, I've got so many worst pitches that I've done. I've pitched to so. I've actually, and I'd say I've both pitched, done really bad pitches as a founder, and I've done really bad pitches as an investor as well. Because one of the things that we have to do, VC is kind of like an intermediary model in financial services. We've got to raise capital to invest that capital in startup companies. And the worst pitch I ever did is I went to, we raise money from governments and banks and family offices and high net worths. And I went to visit a billionaire in North London, and he made me pitch to his 12-year-old son, because his 12-year-old son was into VR and AR, and the pitch ended up being a VR demo, because I had some VR equipment with me at the time. And I never got to pitch that guy. Now, subsequently, he's the guy I go into every year, and he's the guy who sends me packing with my tail between my legs every year. He's got some new reason that he's not going to invest. But if anybody remembers that old movie, Wall Street, where Bud Fox is after Gordon Gekko as the big client, he's the guy I just desperately want to get him to write a check. So I think things can go wrong for a variety of reasons as well. But I think it's often knowing who you're pitching to and what they want to see. Best pitch actually was we did a day-long pitch to the European Investment Fund about a year ago, and it was a full team. And if you think about your pitching for an entire day, things can go wrong. It was actually the best pitch we've ever done, mainly because we all like to talk a lot, and we had a full day to talk. The harder pitches are where you got to do it in 20 minutes. Yeah.
Anybody in the audience have a question for Barry? Surely somebody's going to ask him for money.
I will that later in private, but publicly, you mentioned a golden rule. You said something like follow the golden rule, but you didn't mention what's the golden rule.
I'm so glad you asked me that question. I totally forgot to answer that. The golden rule is very simple. That was on, I think that was on point 4 around raising capital. Golden rule is never run out of cash. And actually you can extend that. And again, that is so simple, but the way we think about it is when we put an investment into a company, typically they're not profitable. And so they're burning through that investment month after month. And we have, you're probably familiar with this runway metric, which is number of months to run out of cash. And so we're ticking down the whole time. And once the company actually gets beyond 6 months, particularly in the current environment, it becomes really tricky to raise money. So it's actually even, it's not just don't run out of cash, it's don't get below 6 months in the current environment as well. Easy to say, hard to do. Yeah.
Anyone else? No. See, Joe Lennon isn't raising money anymore, so he's grand. Nope. Okay. All right, thank you so much for that.
Thank you very much. It's been fantastic. And I think we'll be back here later on today for another panel as well. So thanks, everybody. And I'm around all day if anybody wants to chat. Thanks.